A majority of American voters of all different political ideologies, including Republicans and Tea Party supporters, generally back the new EPA's rules to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. Now, in this recent survey, 54% of voters support the EPA's decision to regulate carbon emissions from the power sector. In the survey, the Clean Power Plan was not named, but it was described as new EPA rules limiting greenhouse gas emissions from new and existing power plants. So let's kind of break this down. Among supporters, 52% said they strongly support the rule, while 48% said they somewhat support the rule. So let's kind of break it down by political ideology. Republicans, 40% support the rule. In contrast with the majority of Democrats, 68% support the rule, 37% of Republicans oppose it, while only 10% of Democrats feel the same way. Among self-identified Tea Party supporters, support for the EPA's rules was high. Almost half of the Tea Party respondents, 47%, said they were in favor of these rules, while only 37% said that they were opposed. That's very interesting. So it turns out when you leave the word Obama out of it, or say it's not Obama's Clean Power Plan, Republicans are on board.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it just also goes to show how it is at this point common consensus that, yeah, the climate's changing. Yeah, there's a problem. Yeah, humanity has something to do with it. I think that's more. And then when you hear these politicians that are just appealing to this fringe base by denying, global warming, by saying it's a hoax and this and that, it just sounds that much more ridiculous. And I think that's part of the reason it wasn't really touched upon much, to my understanding, on the GOP debate. I mean, didn't Bernie Sanders?
They didn't even touch it.
They didn't even touch it. And I think that's why, because so many people on that stage, and they knew it, so many people on that stage are so disconnected from the status quo that even their own party seems to be reaching a rational point. But the people front and center are not, for whatever reason.
Well, it's the political establishment versus the people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see lots of Republican politicians that are saying, no, climate change, it's a hoax. We're not going to do anything about it. Look, and even if climate change is somehow wrong, which is very, very doubtful, right? But even if we are wrong, what's the bad thing about making sure our air is a bit cleaner and more breathable?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
like if that's the trade-off, that's not a bad trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You were saying something before I rudely interrupted you.
I don't think it was. No, I think my thought was finished.
Okay. Yeah. As I said, it's the power establishment that, of course, gets money from the coal industry, from the oil industry. And those are the ones that are against doing any sort of action on, limiting greenhouse gas emissions. But when you go, as I said, to the base, more Republicans than you would think, or more conservatives say, hey, you know what? I actually want to be a conservative and conserve the environment and conserve the earth so that, You know what? Like, this is a good point for people who are religious conservatives, actual real religious conservatives, to say, hey, you know what? God gave me the earth, right? He gave me dominion over the earth. And he said, take care of it. Don't trash my backyard. And, they should be able to follow that and say, you know what, that's logically consistent with what the Bible teaches me to do, to not trash my own backyard, or not trash God's backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, totally. There is that argument. And I think nobody, and that might be part of the reason that there's a lot of support for this as well. Even like the far fringe on the right, they don't deny the fact that we have some stewardship obligations to the environment. They just try to marginalize what they're really doing, because it may affect their bottom line. For a Walmart to dispose of their garbage properly, that may cost a few dollars more, and they don't want to do that. The oil and gas industry wants to deny what fracking does and what their wastewater is doing, because they want to keep putting bandages over the sinking ship that is inevitably, we have to get away from oil. It's not sustainable. It's not going to last. We have to figure out a more effective way to get places. They're going to put those bandages on things as long as they can, because they're making some cash, Jeff. They're doing pretty okay.
They're doing pretty okay.
Yeah.
But then again, if we have these rules, Ron, they're going to go bankrupt.
Right, right.
The richest corporations on Earth will go bankrupt if we put a limit, carbon rule up.
That's right. That's right. And it's interrupting the free market.
That free market. Got to protect the free market at all costs.
That's right. That's right. Even if it means we don't have like we don't have drinking water, protect it. That's freedom.
It seems like a lot of Republicans don't actually agree with that definition of freedom. They actually like clean drinking water. In fact, there are some other polls. A June Washington Post ABC News poll found that 70% of voters, including 63% of Republicans, think that the federal government should limit the release of greenhouse gases from existing sources in an effort to reduce global warming. Pew Research Center survey from November 2014 found that nearly 2/3 of adults favor stricter limits on power plant emissions to address climate change. 31% oppose such regulations. 50% of Republicans agreed with limiting power plant emissions, while 45% were opposed. So you see all these different polls, and there are more I could name off, where Republicans say, no, we can put a limit out there. It's not really going to hurt you all that bad. We'll be fine. The environment will be fine if we put these limits on there. It's not going to destroy the market. We're still going to be the kings of energy here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think it's one of those things like people are just acknowledging, like I said, a basic call to some kind of stewardship. And it's just crazy that, these oil and gas companies, everyone else, like they're just being so grossly unreasonable most of the time that, even the Republicans are saying, come on, this isn't going to kill you. And we got a responsibility here. Let's kind of be sane.
But of course, I just have to throw out the last kind of mention here is that, unfortunately, the head of actual Republicans in office, they're not going to listen to their base when it comes to this issue. They're going to listen to the people who signed their checks.
Oh, absolutely. And then they're going to preface everything with, I'm not a scientist, but here's what we're going to do that contradicts all the scientific evidence out there.
I'm not a scientist, but here's a grossly unscientific statement to back me up.